for joining us. Thanks so much for joining us for our AIAA Technical Committee recruiting webinar. My name is Leslie Weitz. I'm the chief of AIAA's Technical Activities Division. So we're going to start out with a little bit of introduction about technical committees and why we think you should join, and then we're going to hand it off to some of the TAD group directors to talk more about their TCs that they oversee. So in case anyone's not familiar with AIAA, we'll give you a little bit of background. But the AIAA's tagline is shaping the future of aerospace. And we're doing that as an organization through leading humanity beyond planet Earth, defining the next century of flight, and creating the world we dream. And so AIAA does that through a few key roles. One is to help connect people, ideas, and resources. And that's done through the AIAA forums, so meeting several times a year in person, hearing and sharing technical content and networking. AIAA is also focused on advancing career journeys. And so throughout your career, AIAA offers resources to help your professional and technical development. AIAA also is building technical agility and cohesion. So part of that is through the technical community that we'll talk about today, as well as other member-driven communities within AIAA. And then lastly, we're all working together to establish a united front to solve critical issues. And so this one's simple to talk about in terms of, with hard problems, it's easier when we all work together. So that's part of AIAA's role. The mission is helping aerospace professionals and their organizations succeed. And so AIAA has nearly 30,000 members. A number of those are student members that are the future global workforce. Excuse me. And members are coming from 91 different countries, as well as a number of corporate members. So you'll see on the pie chart on the right, there's a number of professional interests that the AIAA's members express interest in. One of those is aerospace sciences, space and missiles, aerospace design and structures, propulsion and energy, aircraft and atmospheric systems, and information systems. And you'll see those themes today when you hear from each of the group directors of the 71 TCs. Were organized very much in that under those professional interests. I mentioned already some of the in-person events and the forums. So AIAA is managing 4 major events per year: the Science and Technology Forum, the Defense Forum, Aviation, and then the Ascend Forum that's coming up at the end of this month. And so that's bringing together around 10,000 forum participants per year, both members and non-members, with over 5,000 technical presentations. And the technical committees, as you'll hear about today, play a large role in helping organize the technical content at those events. There's also 8 peer-reviewed journals. And I've mentioned the 71 technical committees that you'll hear more about today. And then there's a number of other technical resources that AIAA puts together, including Aerospace Perspective webinars and different training courses. And you may be familiar with Aerospace America. So what do AIAA technical committees do? Well, there's 3 main thrusts. One is to advance the technical body of knowledge in aeronautics and astronautics. So you can envision how that happens through some of the forums and the technical publications, as well as developing those products and services and publications. And then the technical committees also recognize outstanding contributions to the aerospace profession to folks at all stages of their careers, so both eminent professionals as well as young professionals and students. So why join a TC? It's an opportunity to collaborate with and learn from colleagues across the industry, from academia, government, and industry. You can also influence the technical content at the forums, as well as the discussion around critical aerospace topics at the national and international levels. So we think this is a part of really having a fulfilling aerospace career. So by getting to engage with the broader aerospace profession, beyond just those folks that work in your community or work within your organization, we think this can enhance your professional and personal experience. So I know for myself, that's certainly been the case. So I can speak to that personally. I think for many of the leaders you'll hear from today, that's why we're all involved. So I mentioned, we we are helping, the technical committees are helping develop that next generation aerospace workforce, and we depend on the support of our exemplary mid and late career professionals that are involved in TCs to help do that. And so we are aiming for a diversity in that TC membership, and there's a number of dimensions of that diversity. So we want to have representation from industry, academia, and government. We want representation from across the US and internationally. And we want representation across the various stages of your career, so late, mid, and early career professionals. And I want to note that we do look for exemplary students as well. So we want students to get involved, again, because of that goal of developing that next generation workforce. And then lastly, but not, certainly not least, is ensuring we have gender and ethnic diversity in our TC membership. So the TC portal is now open. Applications are due by October 16th. And just a reminder that you may apply to up to 2 TCs. It's not a requirement to apply to two, but you can apply up to 2. So what we want to do now is I'm going to start handing it over to the group directors in the technical activities division that oversee the technical committees that fall under those 6 professional interests. So aerospace design structures, aerospace sciences, aircraft technology, integration operations, information systems, propulsion and energy, and space and missiles. So you'll hear from each of these group directors or representative about some of the things their TCs are doing. And we're going to highlight also TCs that are actively looking to expand their membership. So I encourage you to look at whether you have a good alignment with one of those TCs and consider them for application. And so with that, and I'll note too, we're going to hear from the group directors, and we are going to leave time at the end for questions. So please do keep those questions in mind. So I'm going to hand it over now to Stefan Blanchette, who's the Space and Missiles Group Director.
All right, thank you, Leslie, and good morning, afternoon, or evening to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. As Leslie said, I'm Stefan Blanchette. I'm the director of the Space and Missiles Group. I am an associate fellow in AIAA. I've been in AIAA since I was a student. This year, maybe 40 years. So it's been a long time, and I will tell you, this is not my only professional society, but this is my absolute favorite professional society. I've had more chances to do more things and meet more people in AIAA than anywhere else. And getting involved in TCs is a great way to have that kind of trajectory for your own career. So give me the next slide, please. So the first thing to know about the Space and Missiles Group is that we are literally at the center of everything cool going on in space these days. Our members are quite literally transforming science fiction into reality on pretty much a daily basis. It's amazing some of the things that are going on right now. And the breadth of things that we're involved with across our TCs is just astounding across a wide range of domains. So it's a really cool time to get involved. Next slide, please. So we've got a bunch of TCs in the Space and Missiles Group, and I'll quickly go through these. I won't get into the details of each and every one, but starting at the top left, we've got life sciences and systems, and most of these are kind of self-explanatory, so you can probably figure out what's going on behind them. Missile systems, space architecture, space logistics, reusable launch vehicles. That's very much something that was science fiction in my youth. Space tethers, space automation and robotics, more cool science fiction-y stuff coming to life. Weapons system effectiveness, space operations and support. And if you think about it, as we move toward making space an everyday business, operations and support become a really key part of what we have to do day to day. Small satellites, which are all the rage these days, space transportation, space settlement. We're talking about having permanent bases on the moon and perhaps beyond. Space resources and space systems overall, microgravity and space processes. So from big picture things to down in the weeds type of technical areas, There's something for everybody here in the Space and Missiles group. Next, please. So just a few highlights, and this is a very short list, obviously. But I did want to give you just a flavor for the breadth of things that go on within the TCs of Space and Missiles. One is we hosted an RLV roundtable, RLV reusable launch vehicle. We had some very initial collaboration discussions just recently with the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is a really cool organization representing university students and even young space professionals to the UN, the various national space agencies, industry, and academia. So we're excited that we may have some opportunities to get some broad level international participation from some very young minds to help some of the things that our TCs get involved with. We do a whole bunch of STEM outreach, several essay and design competitions across the various TCs. Of course, conference planning, coordination, participation, everything from planning sessions to chairing sessions to chairing entire tracks and getting involved in higher levels of conference planning. That's all part of the things that our TCs get involved with. Several TCs offer awards. For instance, the Reusable Launch Vehicle Innovative Payload Award, which is for students, was awarded just recently. The Von Braun Award for Excellence in Space Program Management will be presented at Ascend in a few weeks. The Missile Systems Award has been selected. That's to be announced very shortly. And last year we had 13 year in review articles in Aerospace America. I will have a similar number to that coming up this December, if not more. So just all kinds of different things that we get involved with. And like I said, this is just a very short list of some of the possibilities. So next, please. All right, we do have a few TCs that are actively recruiting new members, and those include Space Settlement, Missile Systems, Space Operations and Support, Space Architecture, Small Satellites, and Space Systems. But by no means are we going to turn you away if you're interested in one of the other TCs. Please, please, if you see something that you're interested in, apply. It doesn't hurt to apply. Worst case is they'll be full and you'll have to try again next year, but absolutely, if you're interested, we're always looking for active members, and I mean active members. We don't want people who are just looking to pad their resume. We want people who are going to roll up their sleeves and get involved with the work of the TCs. Also, if you see anything that's missing, if we don't have a TC that you think we should have in my group, please let me know. Contact me. I would love to discuss it with you and talk about what can be done, and maybe something that already exists will support your interest, or maybe we really need to think about creating something new. Open to discussing all of the options, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I believe that is my last slide.
Thank you, Stefan. And I'll pass it on now to Dave Maroney.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm wishing you a good afternoon from sunny McLean, Virginia. I am a principal aviation systems engineer with the MITRE Corporation. I have spent my entire career in civil aviation, and so it's actually pretty appropriate that I am to have taken a turn at being a group director for the Aircraft Technology Integration and Operations Group, or ATIO for short. It is obviously very much focused on aviation or aeronautics, as in the first of the two A's for AIAA. Stefan obviously was much more focused on the astronautic side of things. And so, as you can see, we've got TCs that are available and appropriate for everybody. So with that, I'd like the next slide, please. We also, as Stefan said, we also have a number of TCs in our group, our ATIO group, all focused on aviation to one degree or another, or as you'll see as I go through them, there's a lot that are focused on the sort of the general aircraft systems side of things versus a series of TCs that are focused on specific aircraft types. I'll start at the top. Aircraft operations and air transportation systems. Aircraft operations is a TC that focuses on, for in general purposes, how an aircraft operates and will operate appropriately, given that the aircraft technology and integration has taken place. As you can see from ATIO, operations is one of the main components of the group. Air transportation systems is also a good is a good TC, in that it doesn't focus on an aircraft, but it focuses on the system that has to manage aircraft. And so there's a great deal of components that have to do with air traffic control, air traffic management, and how you manage aircraft as they operate in the NAS. Going down the left-hand side, we also have aircraft design. This is a big TC that covers a lot of the components about how aircraft are put together from stem to stern. As you can see from the picture of the 787 Dreamliner in the middle of the page there, it's everything that you can see on this picture and everything that's contained within. So, correspondingly, flight testing goes through all the components that you need to be able to do to be able to test an aircraft as it's being built, designed and built. General aviation has a big role in not only the commercial aircraft as you've seen in the Dreamliner, but also general aviation touches more on the smaller aircraft and the aircraft that aren't flown necessarily as part of the controlled aviation system. The rest of what I'm going to skip over to at the very bottom, aerospace lifecycle management. That is also a big picture kind of TC that covers what are the aircraft that are being built and managed in the system, but also from cradle to grave, from design of the aircraft through the development, through the testing, through the deployment, through the operation, through the maintenance, to eventually to the graveyard. So that's a big scale of TC there. The other TCs that I'll show on the slide here have very much to do with specific aircraft types. Balloon systems have to do with the development and application of free-floating balloon systems and technologies to achieve buoyant flight. Lighter than air systems are similar to balloon systems, but they're powered. They are development of lighter than air vehicles for transport, surveillance, and utility applications. Aerodynamic decelerator systems have to do with that component of being able to provide lifting parachutes, pararotors, or inflatable decelerators for aerodynamic deceleration. And then VSTOL aircraft, or vertical or short takeoff and landing systems, are the development of the capabilities and the technology to having to do with those particular special operational capabilities for the aircraft. And then skipping over to the other side, the electrified aircraft technology is a relatively new TC that is focused on how an aircraft system can be powered and operated with electrified propulsion capabilities and things like that. So HITASP is the last one, and it is hypersonic technologies and space planes. So not only have we talked about balloons and lighter than air and jet and electrified aircraft, but this is now we're talking about the hypersonic technologies and the ability of those to be able to be developed and deployed. So that covers most of the tech TCs in the group. As you can see, it covers a broad swath of what's happening with aircraft and aircraft operations in the airspace. Next slide, please.
Hey, Dave, you have about a minute left in your planning.
I'll zoom ahead. You can go ahead and click 3 times, please. These are 3. I focused on the happenings in the aviation forum that was held in June in San Diego. It's one of the several forums that AIAA puts on. We had several outstanding contributions to that. One was the plenary, or the main kickoff speaker for the day, was hosted by the Lighter Than Air TC. I've listed the presenter there, and a very good Lighter Than Air LTA research about airships. And the second one is about the Electric Aircraft Technology Symposium, which the EATTC hosted in parallel. It was a week-long series of special keynotes and speakers. The Flight Test TC also hosted the Chanute Flight Test Lifetime Award Lecture on Thursday, and which was a terrific speaker by a flight test pilot who was not only an Air Force flight test pilot, but also transitioned to being a test astronaut. So next slide. These are the 5 TCs that I'll say are recruiting new members. Aircraft operations, I've mentioned them before. General aviation TC and the scale that they're contributing to. The aerospace lifecycle management and the end-to-end concerns that they have. Aerodynamic decelerator systems and their the parachutes and concerns that they're dealing with. And balloon systems TC. Next slide, please. These are highlighted on the original slide that I presented. I will say that these are the 5 that told me they were looking for recruiting new members, but one click. Any of our ATIO TCs would be happy to talk to you if you're interested. I did get that notice from several of the TCs. So again, as Stefan pointed out, we're also looking at sort of across the board. But if you have interest in any of the ones that are highlighted in gold, please let me know specifically about those as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. And I'll hand it over to Mitch Ingham.
Hi, Leslie. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. It's a sunny good morning from Pasadena, California. My day job is that I'm the chief technologist of the systems engineering division at NASA JPL. So obviously, I come from more of the space side, but my group, the group that I lead, is information systems. So it really cuts across both air and space. And it's a smaller group in terms of number of TCs, but it's definitely a very fast growing group. It includes basically anything related to information, bits, data, computing, code, and the electronics associated with the above. So switch to the next slide. So the information systems group has 8 TCs, and I'll also point out one working group that we have, quite active working group. So you'll quickly get the idea that these are sort of high growth, hot topic kinds of areas in general. So I'll just start at the top left, and I'll just go alphabetically rather than some other order. So communication systems is one of the TCs in our group. There's a significant emphasis on on-orbit telecom payloads and telecom satellites, but it also covers all of the infrastructure associated with it. So in my world, that would be the deep space network and things like that, right? So all technologies related with communicating between assets on Earth and communicating to assets in space. Computer systems is another TC. And as the name suggests, it's really all about the computing aspects of our disciplines. So that could be onboard computing, so embedded computers, flight computers for spacecraft or aircraft, but it could also be high performance computing on the ground in support of air and space applications, and things like FPGAs or other kinds of novel kinds of computing environments. Digital avionics, sort of a sister group in some ways, that covers everything having to do with the avionics systems on our spacecraft, both air and space. So, think digital cockpits, think anything having to do with sort of, the control, the hardware associated with control of the vehicles. That's in our digital avionics TC. It's a fairly large and active TC. Human machine teaming is one of our newest TCs. They're, as the name suggests, looking at the interface between the human, whether it's a pilot or an operator or something like someone who has an interface with the aerospace vehicle. So the human machine teaming is a very hot topic these days, especially with the emergence of AI and other technologies, and HMT are sort of right at the cusp of that interface with those new technologies. Information command and control systems really looks at all aspects related to command and control, largely of space assets, although complex system of system air systems could also be relevant there in terms of command and control. Intelligent systems, that's the TC that I sort of started right out of grad school as a member of, and eventually became the TC chair of, leading up to my current role as group chair. Intelligent systems covers the artificial intelligence domain, advances in that space, interesting technologies related to autonomous, both aircraft and spacecraft. And so intelligent systems is a hot topic these days, and that's a very large TC as well. Sensor systems and information fusion is, as the name suggests, it's looking at sort of the edge situation there, right? The sensors, the information coming off of those sensors, how we combine that information into getting a sense of the situational awareness, or this, the system awareness, the state and health awareness of a vehicle. Those could be onboard devices for sort of engineering sensing, but it could also be sensors that look out and sense the environment as well. And then finally, software covers all aspects of software, both the full life cycle, the development, all the way through to implementation, how we implement code, and then verification and validation, which is a huge topic these days. How do we more effectively verify and validate embedded software in particular for our systems? And I'll put a short plug in for the Aerospace Cybersecurity Working Group. So cyber is a huge growing area for us, a major area of concern. And so we have a group of interested professionals working together to explore areas of aerospace cybersecurity. It's not a TC, so you don't have to fill out the form to join the Aerospace Cybersecurity Working Group, but they're definitely interested in people who have an interest in cyber. Next, Leslie.
And you have about a minute, Mitch, so.
Okay, yeah, no problem, thanks. So the TC highlights, I have them on 2 pages, but I just wanted to convey sort of the spectrum of the kinds of activities that are going on, from organizing conferences of their own, sort of separate from the traditional forums that AIAA has, like communication systems and digital avionics, both do that every year. Giving awards to deserving members, organizing STEM events and outreach events like the digital avionics team did. Obviously, there's the paper and panel sessions at our forums, like Information Command and Control are really focused on these days. Next slide. In terms of other things that we do in our TCs, in addition to the forums and the conferences, we also organize workshops. There's a big one every year that the Human Machine Teaming and the Intelligent Systems TC always collaborate on, called the Information Systems Workshop. They also organize monthly tech talks and networking opportunities. We TCs often select best papers and award them at conferences. TCs like software are heavily involved in standardization and putting out, guidance to the community. And overall, we're trying hard to work with AIAA, be a good partner, and help them in some new areas of task forces that have been rolled out that once you start as a TC member, you'll hear more about. So I hope that gives you a sense of the flavor of the different things. Next, Leslie, last slide here I'll show. So I've highlighted in green the particular TCs that are actively recruiting, which is not to say that the other three aren't interested in speaking to very keen members who are, want to play an active role on a TC. But we're definitely looking to fill roster slots on comm systems, computer systems, information command and control, sensor systems, and information fusion and software. And of course, the Aerospace Cybersecurity Working Group is always accepting new members. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you, Mitch. Okay, we'll hand it over to Rusty Powell for Propulsion and Energy.
Leslie, good day, all. Yeah, I'm Rusty Powell, the Propulsion Energy Group Director. I'm an associate fellow in AIAA and been a member for about 25 years now, joining in grad school the first time. Day job is as the Vice President of Engineering for Axient LLC. If you go to the next slide, please. I'm excited to talk to you about my group as my colleagues are as well for their respective groups. Propulsion and energy is near and dear to me, as it is, for my colleagues in their respective groups. So let me just tell you a little bit about each of the 13 TCs in my group, and many of the names are self-explanatory, which is I think a consistent theme. But let me start in the upper right and go clockwise. Electric propulsion, really focused on the technologies, components, systems related to electric propulsion for spacecraft. Inlets, nozzles, and propulsion systems does just as the name suggests. It's looking at those components that are outside of the core of an engine to help that engine function well. And it really gets to a key theme about integration of components for various propulsion systems. Solid rockets, again, looking at the technologies and integration associated with solids. Propellants and combustion is dealing specifically with the phenomenology and chemical kinetics and the like associated with propellants and combustions, not directly in the systems or the required components for those various systems. Terrestrial energy systems, I think a big piece here is looking at sustainable energy, storage, various technologies associated with energy here on Earth. Nuclear and future flight, very broad topic. I mean, it's of course nuclear propulsion, but energy generation associated with it. Other future flight propulsion systems, solar sails, a variety of activities. Liquid propulsion, much like solid rockets, but in liquids. So a number of systems looking at liquid oxygen, hydrogen, oxygen, methane, a variety of components and the like. Gas turbines, what are those technologies? And not just from a combustion sense, but from a material sense, various compressor and turbine fan blades and the like to advance turbine engine capabilities. Energetic systems, components rather, and systems, whole variety of things from hydraulics to chemical actuation for various systems, payload fairing deployment, for instance, on launch vehicles, but also systems to allow payload docking and undocking. Pressure gain combustion is the newest TC in the group, and it's looking at various combustion systems associated with a pressure gain. Hybrid rockets, looking at rocket systems particularly, but operating in a hybrid mode, air breathing and rocket. High-speed air breathing propulsion. This is my home TC. I've been a member for a while. and it's looking at ramjets, scramjets, and a variety to help enable high-speed flight. And then last but not least, aerospace power systems, looking at power generation, predominantly in space, as well as the utilization. And if I may, before I continue, I saw a comment in the chat about high TASP, and it's one thing I want to kind of stress a little bit here. You've probably seen some overlapping discussion so far, and you will in the next couple groups, in terms of integration of various systems. And high TASP, I saw that question about high TASP, is one that really does pull together a number of discipline engineering and capabilities systems to focus on a particular area. And high-speed air-breathing propulsion is predominantly one in my group that has a strong connection in high TASP. Next question, or next slide, please. So just a few highlights. For this year, we had 100% year in review submissions, a number of activities regarding awards. You saw that earlier from other groups. We also have a number of undergraduate or design competitions, specifically the gas turbine engine undergraduate student engine design competition. And I did see another question in the chat about when TCs meet and other activities and the like. And typically they meet a couple of times a year in person, although there could be quarterly ones as well. It's TC dependent. But one other thing I wanted to highlight is high-speed air-breathing propulsion at SciTech this year, which was in the National Capital Region in the Washington, D.C. area. They organized a morale event to go on a tour of the Smithsonian out near Dulles Airport, and pretty exciting time for them looking at various technologies. So it was kind of exciting. Next slide, please. I have one TC that's specifically actively recruiting members, but always looking, as the slide suggests, always looking for dynamic members from industry and government and young professionals. But I also want to stress that within propulsion and energy and across TAD and the technical activities, we're always looking for student members to participate in our TCs. And so I would encourage both student members as well as others to apply, even the ones that haven't specifically listed that they're actively recruiting new members. They're always actively recruiting. So much like my colleagues, if you're interested, please do apply. And if you have questions otherwise, I welcome the interaction and questions. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rusty. Okay, I'll hand it over to Jeanette Domber for Aerospace Design and Structures.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everybody. I'm joining you from maybe not quite so sunny Colorado today, but I am the director of the Aerospace Design and Structures group. I work at Ball Aerospace. I'm a technical fellow in the Payload Systems group. Next slide, please. I have 10 TCs in my group. And just like some of the other areas, we range from covering a lot of aircraft related things as well as space related things. And I think here our group is pretty indicative. The name describes very well what we do here, as it does for many of the other groups. Of my 10 TCs, there are 3 that have room in their rosters for additional membership, specifically design engineering, survivability, and systems engineering. And I'll go over those 3 in more detail, but as everybody has indicated, all of our TCs are always looking at the applicants. They're always looking for people who are interested in getting involved, but these 3 are the ones where you might not have to wait as long, depending on your interests and your alignment with what you would like to do to get onto the TC. Next slide, please. So now you've heard this from a lot of the groups. You definitely have probably seen some themes in what we do within the technical activities division. Our big forum for our group is definitely SciTech, where we organized over 500 technical papers and 162 sessions. That's coming up in early January of 2024. So we've been actively doing that again. And that's one of the areas that you can definitely help in. So somebody asked in the chat about specific duties. One of the big things we do is help organize these forums and the technical content of the forums. We've had a lot of ongoing and meaningful discussions in my group over the last couple of years about building a technical community within ADSG, TAD, and AIAA in general. We've been joined by some of the other groups in that discussion, all of the other groups in that discussion. This has been especially important as we come out of the pandemic and back into meeting in person when we're able to, and figure out how to do the whole hybrid thing. We want to make sure that people feel very welcome. And how do we do that? And how do we build the technical connections that our members so want to have? We've also had good group participation in Aerospace America, which that, just so everybody knows, is a chance to highlight what your technical area has been doing in terms of advancements and achievements once a year in AIAA's magazine. We've also had awards that the TCs administer and those sorts of things. TCs also help participate in standards review and sometimes helping influence those, educational outreach. So a lot of themes here in terms of what the TCs do. In terms of the actual time commitment, that can depend on which subcommittee you join, but there's ample opportunity to get involved at a level that you can work in with your schedule. I would say that, you know, for most people, it's probably a couple of hours a month, with definitely some spikes as we get ready for the forums and organizing those papers when you have to do abstract reviews and things like that. And so some people might spend, definitely more hours in those months leading up to that, but you usually know what you're getting into and can plan for that. To help answer some of the questions in the chat. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have 3 TCs in aerospace design and structures actively recruiting. That's design engineering, systems engineering, and survivability. And we definitely are looking for people who are ready to participate, and you'll be asked to join a subcommittee right away in order to get involved and get an understanding of how the TC is organized and what they do. Next slide, please. So here specifically is the systems engineering TC. Here's their vision and mission statement. I won't read that out to you, but they're definitely specifically looking for people who work as systems engineers in the aeronautic or astronautic systems and how those apply. Here's a list of the subcommittees associated with this TC. And you can see here the themes are related to the activities that we've all been talking about. Next slide, please. Design engineering, very similar. They have a similar subcommittee structure, but they are promoting the development and dissemination of design technology specific to aerospace products. And that can be, again, in the field of aeronautics or astronautics. Next slide, please. And then the last TC in my group who is actively recruiting is the survivability TC. Again, here is their scope. This relates to a lot of different fields. A lot of the areas in our group, they're very fundamental in terms of their technical disciplines, and they go across a range of products and applications. So a lot of opportunity here to perhaps, if you're interested, for example, in structures, but if you're working in something related to survivability might be a better fit for you because of them having room on the TC. And here again is a list of their subcommittees as well. And you can see that the conferences, the publications, awards, education outreach are thematic across a lot of our TCs. We do a lot of work in those areas. So I think that's my last slide. I'll just say, again, if one of these TCs is not the one that you were thinking about in our group, definitely still think about reaching out, asking questions, sometimes getting involved with the TC a little unofficially, or joining one of their meetings at a forum is a way to find out more about them and make yourself known to the TC and potentially get involved with some of our fuller TCs, I'll just say. Okay, thank you, Leslie.
Great, thank you, Jeanette. Okay, and last but not least, I'll hand it over to Crystal Basilio for the Aerospace Sciences Group.
All right, thanks, Leslie. So I'm joining from Eglin Air Force Base, where I serve as the Principal Technical Advisor for the Carriage Mechanics Division in the Air Force CQ office, standing in for our ASG Director, Martiqua Post, who's currently on leave, but she's a professor in aeronautical engineering at the Air Force Academy. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to kind of respect everybody's time, so we have some time for Q&A, so I'm going to get through this pretty quickly. We have quite a few technical committees in the Aerospace Sciences group. I'll read them off for you, but they're pretty self-explanatory. We've got aeroacoustics, astrodynamics, atmospheric flight mechanics, thermophysics, meshing visualization and computational environments, modeling and simulation, guidance, navigation and control, plasma dynamics and lasers, atmospheric and space environments, ground testing, aerodynamic measurement technology, fluid dynamics, and applied aerodynamics. So basically anything that you're going to do in aerospace sciences, you're going to find applicable technical committees within the aerospace sciences group. As my colleagues have noted, this particular group spans both the aeronautics and the astronautics aspects, ground testing, flight testing, and all aspects of modeling and simulations at various levels of fidelity. Next slide. So some things to highlight, and I'll try to address some of the questions that were in the chat. Jeanette did a great job. I'll try to elaborate on some of those. An ASG, we have generated a lot of high quality technical content, mostly primarily from the SciTech and aviation forums. So what that means is that we decide what technical paper sessions will be presented at the forums. On a TC, you're responsible for generating the call for papers, identifying the technical sessions. We have kind of our standard technical sessions, but if there are any special topics that are of interest in the community, you can declare a special topic session. And a lot of those times we'll do those in collaboration with other technical committees within TAD, within our group or across different groups. And so that means as a TC, you're responsible for chairing those sessions and reviewing abstracts for those sessions. Most of the TCs within ASG are engaged in actively participating in TC meetings and activities. So what does that mean? So I saw a question about how often we meet. So most of the TCs will meet in person now that we're moving back to an in-person conference model at these different forums. Some TCs, depending on their battle rhythm, may still hold virtual meetings ahead of the conference or hybrid meetings, depending on folks' travel schedule. So it really depends on the particular TC and what makes the most sense for them. So there's not one answer to that question. I think Jeanette referenced, there's all the administrative subcommittees like education, liaisons, honors and awards for all the wonderful honors and awards that AIAA gives out. Membership and nominations so that we can actively maintain and recruit our membership. Planning, publicity, and publications, those are kind of your typical administrative subcommittees. But then we also, I saw a question about working groups and what's the difference between a working group and a technical committee. So the technical committees sponsor working groups. They also sponsor discussion groups. And so usually things start out as a discussion group in a particular technical area, and then they may evolve into a working group where we establish a challenge problem and put it out to the community. And those a lot of times end up being special sessions or a series of special sessions in our technical conferences, and those sorts of things. And then a lot of times the technical committees will generate online short courses or in-person short courses at the forums themselves. And then as a product of your working group, if you've assessed a challenge project and you have results, then you'll establish a workshop and host that at the forum. So those are a lot of the things that we actively do in the TCs in the Aerospace Sciences group. Next slide. And so just like my colleagues have said, most of our TCs are always looking for new members, but the 4 that reached out explicitly for ASG and said that they were actively recruiting new members were atmospheric and space environments, atmospheric flight mechanics, applied aerodynamics, and fluid dynamics. And I will caveat that the first 2 probably have more room on their roster than the second 2. Everybody's looking, but some of our rosters are fuller than others, which means that it may be a little bit more competitive. And so I saw someone also ask, what what is the requirement to be on a TC? So basically you want to find the TC that aligns with your interests, usually related to the job that you're performing. And then, like my colleagues have said, our rosters need to be representative of our workforce. So that means we need membership from all the way from students to our more senior graybeard, gray-haired folks that have been around and know a lot of stuff, because you really need that cross-pollination across the demographics and across the field. And I think that was my last slide. And so I'll cede back the rest of the time for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Crystal. All right, so I'm going to throw up this slide that has some of our contact information. I see there's a lot of questions in the chat. I haven't been able to monitor any of it because I've been presenting. So Molly, I don't know if you've taken stock of some of the questions, and I do thank the directors who have already answered some of them. So
I have caught a little bit. Again, some of the stuff I will probably need a little more info from you guys, but
okay.
I'll put in there my email and Angie's, and if there's any questions that we missed, you guys can email us and we'll take care of it or direct you to the right director.
That sounds good. I see Isaiah Taylor has his hand raised. Do you want to ask a question? And feel free to come on video if you're open to it.
Yes, ma'am. We're at work and we're open right now, so I can't come on camera. But what I can say is, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isaiah. I work at John Hopkins APL. I'm a early career test and evaluation engineer here at John Hopkins APL. So I wanted to ask more along the lines of specifically what spaces you all have for the early career professionals, for the younger folks. You know, what kind of things can we do to make ourselves stand out, I guess I should say, when applying for these things, because these things seem to be pretty prestigious and pretty competitive. So
yeah, thank you for your question, Isaiah. So I'll answer, but certainly encourage other directors to step in. So as hopefully you heard the message, we want to find folks from all different stages of their careers. So obviously we encourage the young professionals, the early career professionals, to apply. In terms of what you can do to stand out, I do encourage you to reach out to the TC chairs for those TCs that you're applying for, and you can contact the group directors if you can't find their contact information. I think expressing an interest to be active and get involved, obviously highlighting some of your career accomplishments to date, but I think most importantly, expressing an interest and a desire to really get involved. So you aren't just doing it to build your resume, as someone said early on, but rather you do want to actively contribute to the community. And the TC chairs and the TCs will help you figure out how to best do that. But that willingness to be involved, I think, is really important. So
hey, Leslie, I'll just jump in with one other item. First, here to being involved. Absolutely, your desire and interest to be involved. To extend that, then, you know, Isaiah, I don't know if you have attended any of the forums, but all of the TC meetings that I know of are open, meaning it's public information when they meet, where they meet at the forums. You could just attend. Now, I would recommend that you contact the TC chair first to let that person know that you'll be there, but just go and sit in and see what it's like. Thanks.
thank you. We'll do.
thanks, Rusty. I see a question from Bob Stuber. You have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hey there, good afternoon. I turned my camera on. I'm Bob Stever. I'm a 40-year member of AIAA, and I've actually been on several TCs and program committees. In fact, I'm still on 2 national level committees and another national level activity with AIAA, and very active with that. In the past, the TCs and the PCs have always had as a requirement that you attend at least one meeting a year in person at a minimum. Typically, I never had any trouble attending all the meetings that they usually had in person. But with pivots and changes in the way that, especially my employer and a previous employer elected not to support AIAA activities as much, they've pulled away from being able to send us to conferences and to in-person meetings. And so my question is there still the soft, if not a hard requirement for these TCs that you attend in-person meetings and having that as a requirement, or is a virtual participation now allowed? Of course, with subcommittees, it's pretty simple to do work of the committee without having been at the meeting. So the question is the in-person requirement still in place for the TC memberships? Over.
Yeah, so I don't think we have a hard formal requirement for in-person attendance at the meetings. Now, I certainly want to stress the importance of that. However, you know,
Right.
many of the TCs that are meeting at the forums, they're also serving, those TC members are also serving as session chairs. They're helping in the running of the forum, really. And so we do want to encourage you know, folks to attend in person if they can. That said, I think it's something to coordinate with the TC chair, you know, on your specific needs. As you noted, there's a lot we can do now virtually that we couldn't in the past. And there's a lot of work that can be done on the TC, you know, remotely without that in-person interaction. Though, you know, again, I am hesitant to de-stress the in-person attendance, simply because, you know, the networking aspect is very important. So I'd say it's on a TC by TC basis, and something you can coordinate with the TC chair.
Okay,
So.
thank you. Yeah, I'm very well aware of that, having chaired many conference sessions and being in person with regard to the TC sessions. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other, let me see if I can view the raised hands. Any other questions? We've got a few minutes to go, and I saw that Molly noted you can reach out. What we might do, Molly, maybe if we can go through the chat afterwards and see if there's any questions that we can, when we distribute the slide deck and the recording information, we could put a few Q&A questions from the chat in there if we didn't get to them. So I'll give one last chance for any questions that weren't able to be answered yet.
Yeah, Leslie, I had another question. Farheen
Sure.
had her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Farheen, go ahead.
So, hi everyone. I am joining in from India. I actually read it on a website that there will be a interview for the selection. So, could I have more information about the structure of interview?
Farheen, I don't think that's accurate. I think typically it's possible that some TC chairs will reach out to candidates, but there is no interview process. So everything is done through the application portal. So you submit your information and the TCs make their selections from there.
Fine,
And I
thank
think
you.
you put in the chat there kind of the process of that. When you apply on your application, you can write down your technical background, and that's where the judges will look at.
I will say, though, I think a lot of the TCs do like proactive people who come to the TC meeting, introduce themselves, and show some, you know, engagement that way, or maybe reach out to the TC chairs. It gives you an opportunity to get to know them a little bit better, and them to get to know you a little bit better. I would encourage you to try to make a contact.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. That's a good point.
Leslie, can we, I know we out of time. Can we, I wanted to hear for the young guys, seem like I'm the youngest person on the call. Can we hear from the people about how has it benefited their careers in a more tangible way? You know, I know we always hear like it benefits your career, but I think I heard networking a lot, and connections a lot, and technical development. Like, can I hear more about from where you all were, you know, 20, 30 plus years ago to now, how that has benefited you all on the technical front and the networking front?
Yeah, that's a
Sure.
great question, Isaiah. Anyone
I'll
want to
talk
take
to
that?
that if I can.
Yeah, please.
So I mentioned I've been with AIAA a long time, and having gotten involved with a number of different things. Sure, networking has been a great part of what I do. meeting different people, being able to talk to them about different kinds of things and different aspects of my technology fields has been a great advantage as I go back to my home organization, whatever that might be at the time, and try and solve some hard problems. It helps me connect the dots between some of the problems I try to solve for my customers. So that's been great. And I also mentioned that you don't have to take a linear path through AIAA's technical committees. I actually started out in the software TC under the information systems group and got up to deputy director of that group. And now I've jogged over to space and missiles. So there are a lot of opportunities to go in directions that perhaps you wouldn't have if you've not had the opportunity of being involved in an organization like AIAA.
Thank you, Stefan, for taking that. So we're a little bit over time. I want to respect everyone's time. I want to say, first off, thanks to all the participants for joining. We're happy to hear from you. We will send out the material and feel free to reach out with further questions. And thank you all to the group, to the group directors for presenting and all the great information you shared. So everyone have a great day, and we look forward to getting your applications. So thanks so much.
I just want to say, if you want to find information on existing TC meetings, reach out to Angie and I, and we can direct you to, again, the right person and get in contact with them.
Great. Thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.